Let's talk about something you're keen on, and you'll explain it in layman's really shortly as we wrap up. And that is the hard stance that our government, the African Union, has taken on Moody's rating. And tell us what that is, and if we can expect them to be fair to Kenya in their rating, because we have had the criticism the president has put against the Moody's rating and how it is not infallible. It can be corrected. But just tell us what that is, why it should matter, and whether we can expect them to be fair to Kenya in their rating.
Yes, thanks, Mark. So the essence of credit rating agencies is to be able to give like a stamp of the quality, credit worthiness, credit quality of an issuer. So in this case, we are talking about the government of Kenya. So they give their different ratings, their number of issues that they keep an eye on so that they can give a particular rating. So specifically, I think that came in the wake of Moody's report, or it was a news story that went out around July or August, in the sense that Moody's will downgrade Kenya's rating. So the Kenya's rating by Moody's is around B-. So let's just simplify it now that you said. So it's like high school or in primary school, there are those grades. So A is the bright guys. The guys went to Alliance, the A guys. So there are those even in terms.
You won't say Upper Hill? Where you
Upper Hill is also.
Your boys are watching. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, now that you mentioned.
Yes. So you're saying, sorry.
Yeah, so we have the similar rating. So the high quality credit borrowers are given a higher rating, the A, as you go down, C, and then after that it becomes a default. So right now we are at a situation, the ratings by Moody's was a B-. But what happens is, for any of these credit rating agencies, they sort of preempt the kind of rating that they will give, in this case, to Kenya. So for instance, if they give downgrade, so there's normally a rating, which is now B-, and then they either give it a positive rating, a positive outlook, they give it a stable outlook, or a negative outlook. By these outlooks, it means that in the next 2 or so years, if it's a positive outlook, and if Kenya is B-, it will go to a B. If it's stable, it will remain, there's a likelihood that it will remain B-. And if it's a negative outlook, it pretty much says that in the next 2 years, it could now go from B- to C. Pretty much that's what they normally give as preemptive.
And what determines our rating is whether we are staying true to our obligations.
Yes, exactly. They look at a number of factors. They look at political angle. They look at the fiscal angle, basically our debt to GDP. They look at how we service our debt.
Will they be looking at the Eurobond and how we deal with that come June?
Definitely. It also comes in part of their rating. And so what happened is, specifically for Moody's, when they reviewed our rating, so they gave us a B-, but then rather than an outlook, they said that it is a negative, it's due for a negative downward review. This is in May. In English, it means that rather than, unlike an outlook, which gives you like 2 months, in 2 years down the line, this now meant that in the next 3 months, they will further downgrade it. So that is the negative downgrade review, not an outlook review. So there are a number of issues that they mentioned. Obviously, there was in the context of the upcoming Eurobond maturity, but also they flagged the risk in domestic borrowing. By that time, domestic borrowing was not performing so well, so that is a major risk that they saw. Because if domestic, the government borrows domestically and also externally, so there's usually that split. So there's a risk that if you're not able to borrow domestically, it has an impact even in your spending plans, and it also has an impact even you'll further borrow more from external market. So that's the kind of risk that they are flagging off here. But for one reason or another, I mean, the government was looking for around 60 billion. They managed to get 200 billion around June. So they were able to sort of ward off that risk. So when August came for the review, downgrade review, because we were in a better position, they said, we'll leave it at B minus.
Yeah.
And they put out a report. And amidst that is when they also preemptively said that in the event that the government of Kenya is able to do a buyback, now the buyback that I talked about here, buyback on the Eurobond, they'll be able to see if it is a default. So let me put it this way. So if you lend to the government of Kenya, say 1 million shillings, and a bond is a tradable instrument.
Yep.
So right now, that bond, Eurobond that was issued, is trading at around 93 cents to the dollar. So what Moody in their methodology is like, if you are buying back, basically, I go to you, Mark Masai, say, okay, it's trading at 93 cents to the dollar. So that means on your 1 million, I will pay you back your 930,000, and then I take that bond. So I buy back that bond. But now, in Moody's terminology, if you're buying below the 1 million or the amount that an investor invested, that is a default. So something like that. So it boils down to mechanics, some terminologies, some nuances and all that. So, but in essence, if you go to the ratings agencies as themselves, you know that they're all analysts. They all look at the same numbers. We all look at the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's only that they are given much more emphasis because of the fact that they are like the gatekeepers for the foreign investors.
Okay.
So somebody wants to...
So are you, though? Sorry. Somebody once said, you were going to say? Let me make this point because I wanted us to kind of close this, because so are you an economist who looks at the same numbers.
Yes, exactly.
And as asset manager for IC Group and an economist of good repute, went to Upper Hill, did his actuarial science at University of Nairobi. Now Kamaliza, he graduated. He has the papers to prove. What is Ogutu's rating looking forward? Because there are some quarters, even the Prime Cabinet Secretary has been quoted as saying he sees the government, or at least the economy, stabilizing in the next 3 years. What's Ogutu's rating in terms of having the shilling being able to hold its own against the dollar?
Yeah, well, I think within the next similar time frame that the
so 2 years to go.
Prime Cabinet Secretary is talking about, the risk is now the June 2024 Eurobond.
Yeah.
We are within the context of an IMF program, and that IMF program is coming to an end around April 2025. So within today, all the way to April 2025, at least you can see that there's a big brother holding our hands, that's the IMF, so that we ensure that our taxes, or we ensure that we reduce wasteful spending. It's not that they have gone away, but at least there's somebody who is holding a big stick to ensure that we stick to the straight and the narrow. So after that, so 2025 now in 2023, after that at least now, hoping that there is no other external shock, because we might be looking at it from a base case scenario, that there's no like a COVID or Russia-Ukraine war coming in and tips the apple cart. So that's the sort of scenario that probably after that, we could now be able to be at least in a more better shape, in the sense like we won't have a staggering $2 billion maturity in the Eurobonds. From 2025, we'll just be paying off $300 million, which is pretty much manageable. So that's pretty much in line with the 2 to 3 year time frame that Musalia Mudavadi talked about.
All right. And with the people who are saying the dollar will get to 160 soon, maybe by the end of the year, is that optimistic, pessimistic, or realistic?
I think it's a realistic case. It's a realistic scenario. I still expect some pressures coming in.
Okay.
By the 3 months that is still remaining, From in terms of dividend payment, because normally there are those cyclical things that normally happen, cyclical events that normally play out. I think, but we have faded those cyclical events in the sense like by August, we are paying some significant dividends. This is Safaricom, largest telco, paying some significant dividends to foreign investors, to Vodafone, the largest investor in Safaricom. So we don't expect that. But as we come to the end of the year, we normally get this kind of dollar stockpiling one way or another by corporates, which might be able to bring some currency pressures. We also have the FX pressures. We also are in the period whereby whatever was in the Kenya Shilling escrow account within the G2G oil import deal. So as I mentioned earlier, the 4 importers who are importing oil on behalf of the industry, they used to be paid in Kenyan shillings by the other, by the people in the industry. So they would put this Kenyan shillings equivalent in a escrow account. But now this escrow account in Kenyan shillings needs to be converted into dollars. The money that is held in the Kenyan shillings escrow account to be converted into dollars so as to be able to pay the Saudi Aramco and all that. So those are the pressure points that I'm still seeing that could now potentially lead to further weakness of the shilling. Let me not put a number to that because some of us will be saying, you told us.
So if I have a dollar or some dollars, nishikilia hadi mwisho wa mwaka?
Kama unaweza.
Thank you so much, Churchill Ogutu, IC Asset Manager, Economist. Thank you for your thoughts and at least some direction that you have lended. I hope David D and them listen because, I mean, you speak a lot of credible information in terms of the economy and the outlook without any bias to the government on whether political side anyone would sit. There are some good moves that it's making, but the realistic picture is things aren't looking good. But we can only hope for the best. Thank you for your time. And you can wave and say what's up to your people from Upper Hill and UON. Ulikuwa na Sakaja?
Alikuwa like 2 years before me. Alikuwa, there's this UON Actuarial Students Association. So remember, we used to call him SACS. SACS, yeah. At least the peers that were 2 years.
Ukamaliza mbele yake?
Alimaliza. He was 2 years ahead of me.
Let
me leave it at that point. Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good point to leave it at. Thank you, Churchill. Thank you to those who watch. I know some of them who were at school with him and can confirm that he has his papers.
Sauti Sol.
Sauti Sol, he says.
Hill,
Shout out to Sauti Sol and them. And thank you for watching and for your attention. We'll be having this uploaded in case you missed a bit of it at the beginning. And we'll also be cutting bits and pieces just to upload and bring it to your attention and to others who you can share with. The Social Newsroom continues next week. Have a good night.